good to go. Welcome everybody to the February 12th Facilities and Finance Work Session. First up is call to order, which was just done. Next is public comment.
No one has signed up for public comment.
No one has signed up for public comment. Approval of minutes.
I was not here at that meeting, so. Staying from approving.
Then let's table that until we have more than one I think there should be more than one person
Yes.
on that, which brings us to facilities. And I think first up, we have our capital project team.
All right. Good evening. Am I first?
You're first.
Super. We're here to talk about the upcoming capital project and do a quick review of where we stand in terms of schedule, quick review of the scope, and then we'll touch on the communications around it. Oh, there we go. Yeah. All right, here we are. So we had a communications meeting this morning in which we were targeting the March 10th board meeting to adopt the seeker and proposition resolutions. Those were, I can't remember if those actually were adopted or those were scheduled to be adopted some months ago, prior to when the vote date was rescheduled. So hopefully folks are familiar with what those means. I'm happy to explain those more if you'd like. Those come from your attorney and bond counsel, respectively. So those are, the seeker one will likely be a type 2 action, which is sort of the lowest level of requirement. There's not much site work happening for the to trigger any State Environmental Quality Review Act restrictions or anything. And the resolutions are written by your bond counsel with the input of numbers from the district in terms of where money is coming from, and the description of the project, which is pretty general. We're in the phase where we're preparing communications to the voters. There, we'll see in a minute a postcard that is being sent in the mail within days or maybe a week or so, that will be hitting folks' mailboxes soon. That just gives very, very high level, we'll look at it in a minute. And that's leading up to the May 19th public vote. So any questions about the schedule?
Maybe just for clarification of the audience, I should say seeker. Is that an S seeker or a C seeker? Is it city or state?
It's state, New York State.
Okay.
State.
So seeker is confusing because it can be city environmental review, city environmental quality review, seeker. And that's if we were in the city of Ithaca. So I've been playing board for many years, so we always did seekers, and there was city environmental quality review. Here, we're not under the jurisdiction of City of Ithaca because we are our own lead agency. So lead agency is the agency that supervises the environmental review. So we're conducting not a C seeker, but an S seeker, which is a state environmental quality review. And type 2 action as opposed to type 1 action means this is a low level impact in terms of environmental review. So just
Thank you.
some acronyms there. So people
Yes.
listening, that's what we mean when we say seeker, is that's an environmental check. That nothing we're doing here is going to endanger any animals or contaminate water or so we intend, right?
That's correct.
And then the bond is
So the bond
Right.
is basically how a school district goes about borrowing money on the municipal bond market generally. There's also a DASNY, which is the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, offers bonds as well. So you have some options there depending on what the interest rates are. And your bond counsel is a attorney that specializes in this work and advises you on writing the language of the propositions that you will present to the voters. So that language is drafted. You adopt that language at that March 10th board meeting, and that will be the language that voters will see.
so this will be the language for the voters to approve us to go to the bond market.
That's correct. And
So-
and it says basically it's sort of speaking to the voters, you know, as a proposition. Will you authorize Ithaca City School District to borrow this much money, use this much money from its capital reserve? It goes, you know, through the different specific numbers of how it's going to get paid for. It will give a brief description of the scope of work that will be strategically generic, so that if you have the opportunity to add some scope of work, it's, you know, covered under some broad language. And that, when the voters authorize that, that's what allows you to borrow up to that amount and use amounts from accounts that you already have funded to pay for the
Just
project.
for folks at home, this is authorized, if approved by the voters, this would authorize the district to go to the bond market. We issue basically a bond coupon, investors buy those in anticipation of us paying promptly the interest that's due on those. We borrow the money, we borrow the money rather than use general funds, because we're gonna finance those over a prolonged period of time for a variety of reasons, to keep the cost of borrowing at 7% or less. That is the cost of capital paying at 7% or less of our total budget, and also to qualify us for the state rebate of approximately 58% on capital project expenditures. I get it wrong?
The aid on construction, on eligible construction, is not predicated on borrowing money.
Okay.
There are districts that have cash
Okay,
and they still get their aid.
so. Thank you. Nonetheless, we're gonna borrow the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's pretty
All right.
typical.
great, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Other questions? Or things you'd like to clarify? All right. Then we have seen the scope document. It continues to include, you know, the items that we've talked about. If there are any questions about that, happy to go through it again. Just wanted to get it up here so folks remember, you know, the nature of the scope of work, which is generally fixing stuff that is aging out or is failing already. You know, these are the examples we've seen before, the roofing and some of the imagery there of on the left thermal scan, and on right the same area showing, you know, some leaks that are happening. The science rooms in DeWitt and Boynton, which are original to the 1972 vintage of the building.
And these are all of the science rooms.
There were 3 science rooms on the lower level at Boynton that were previously renovated. So this project does not include those, since those are newer.
But all
So
the
it's
rest.
All, yeah,
Right.
the 3 upstairs at Boynton and all 6 at DeWitt. That includes some safety shutoffs for the gas, replacing the cabinetry, finish upgrades, introducing accessibility to those teaching spaces. Fire alarms, Ithaca and South Hill. There's, you know, been some instructional interruptions due to the fire alarms going off. They're aging out. It's hard to find replacement parts.
We've had at least 2 or 3 this year at Ithaca High School. Instructional, one because it's an old system talking to a new system, we can't find where the smoke head is quickly, which eats up our instructional minutes and can take us extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes, where students have to be out of the building.
The old system is analog, basically, so you got a big loop, so it could be any number of pieces of equipment on that loop, and that's all you can tell, and you got to go through sort of in a painstaking way. Modern systems are all digital, so you know exactly immediately what device is being triggered, and you can go and find that quickly, repair it if needed, reset it, investigate the immediate area, those sorts of things. So it's much more efficient that way, as well as being more reliable. In terms of wellness, these are the nursing suites. We see some of the images of BJM, which is also experiencing some settlement in the slab, causing some cracking. So we'd like to change that layout at that building for a couple reasons, a structural reason as well as an accessibility reason. You can see the toilet room there, and you have a sense of what an accessible toilet room has. You have space beside the toilet and in front of it to maneuver, and the grab bars and all those things. So this item goes through many, not quite all the buildings in the district, but many of them, most of them, to make upgrades to allow them to be accessible. There is the geothermal system at Ithaca High School and Boynton Middle School that we've talked about as well at length. This is a proposal to provide the cooling capacity for these buildings in lieu of the lake source cooling system that we were previously attempting to tie into Ithaca High School. For athletics, the Boynton Gymnasium floor, although recently refinished, so it looks a lot better now, still had experienced over the past water intrusion through these doors based on like the grading and some other things. So there would be some work outside to prevent that from happening in the future, and some work inside to replace that gym floor because it has a lot of what they call dead spots where an athletic floor has certain rebound, and so if you go out there with a basketball or some other object, like you can feel the dead spots. So it's a failing gym floor from a athletic, and technical standpoint, even though it looks a lot different than it used to look, and with the finish coming up there. There is some floor abatement in this project. We have a budget for about 40,000 square feet of removing existing asbestos-containing material, of which there is a lot of it across the state of New York in many, many school buildings. When we see the material chipping, exposing, so asbestos could be in the tiles themselves or in what we call the mastic, which is the black, gluey looking stuff, the glue that holds it down. And it varies from building to building, which of those two materials contains asbestos. But when it starts to fail like that, that raises the concern that asbestos then is less encapsulated than it typically is. A lot of asbestos can be in a building and be perfectly safe for folks if it is contained and or encapsulated is the technical term. So there is some work at Ithaca High School that's been identified for that, as well as Caroline Elementary School. That's the two buildings. And the map on the right is a lot of colors, but that goes through and tells us what all the materials are. Is there asbestos in the tile? Is there asbestos in the mastic? Is there asbestos in both? Or is there asbestos in neither? Or is it carpet? So we've done some more detailed analysis on that building. There is some paving at Cayuga Heights that we see is failing. If you've been out there, the district has done a lot of great work to keep it as functional as it is out there with the age and the condition of the asphalt, but some repairs needed there. Playgrounds, there is a budget for some playground replacement and enhancement that's been discussed at various schools, BJM being one of those. Bathroom upgrades. There are many bathrooms throughout the district in need of bathroom upgrades. We have we're showing BJM and some at the high school as examples of the vintage of bathrooms that you see in various places around the district. EV infrastructure. This is to support a project that has been designed and approved by the state to upgrade your electrical service and do some infrastructure work for future charging of electric buses and for charging of the existing, I think, 9 electric buses that you have now. And that's the scope. Any questions about that? To move on to, we've got our abbreviations list in case you have questions. Then let's look at the postcard quickly. That shows us largely dates, thanks Tricia, of community conversations that have been scheduled for the public. So this is what the first, piece of information that voters will see. Hey, there are these opportunities to come and learn more. There is a QR code at the top right that links to the district website, which is being populated already with some specific materials for this, and we'll receive some more in the upcoming weeks. The date, it refers at the top of the top left where underneath the projector name, I don't know if that can be moved, but you might be able to see it says tax neutral project. So what that means is you have capacity within what Garrett was saying, the 7% of your budget that is allocated for, basically paying for facility enhancements. That with the analysis of your financial advisor, we've backed into a number for this referendum that keeps that consistent, and that tax burden on the community remains consistent. That's what that is communicating. And then the flip side of that is just the front of the postcard. So that's what's going out. So there are dates that folks will be seeing. Many of them are in this very room. You can see we're going out to Danby and GIAC and Enfield. And kudos to district communication staff for working all this out and getting this set up. Any questions about that?
Yeah, no, just add, we had a good discussion this morning about how to populate the QR code. I'm just seeing as of right now, folks who want to think, well, where did this come from? There are no fewer than 14 meetings that we've already had on this capital campaign that are all posted. So, anybody wants to background, you can go back and watch all 14, binge weekend on facilities.
Yeah.
And so that we had a discussion about what other information will go there, including, I think we're going to try to do a clip or two of Ben from Fiscal Advisors explaining sort of the bond process and the tax neutrality and some of the state rebates and so on and so forth. So I also want to thank Jennifer for scheduling all of these events, and I would just say that I will be at all of them, and to my colleagues, you're all welcome. Please come. I think the more board members we have, the better.
So the intent of those conversations is to inform the public about the nature and of the capital project, what work is being proposed, and how it's structured. Thanks.
All right, a question about the QR code. So it goes to a website, Ithaca City School District website where everything's populated there.
Yes.
But then is there a link back to the budget development website where frequently asked questions are? People
Well,
could readily go
so
through that.
That's a good topic to talk about for a moment. There's the budget process, then there's the capital project process, and they're going on in parallel and will be voted on the same date, but the funding mechanisms for the two are different and separate. I think I'm not sure about, I can't speak to the district website, but I would be, I guess I would recommend that you do not link the two together, because folks are easily, I think, confused about, how they work financially.
But with the new term tax neutral capital project, although it's not a new term, folks will be confused.
Yes.
If there needs to be something to specify that. I can't remember what it looked like. Does it have the date of the vote?
It
So
does.
okay, it has the date of the vote, so that, and normally it says annual budget, vote, and school board election, so that people know this is happening on the same day, but yet, okay, we're voting for the budget, and this is going to be more than likely Proposition 2, or
Maybe 3 or 4, because you'll have the budget, you'll probably have a capital reserve, you have.
2 is usually the buses. The bus, yeah. Right, yeah. Buses, passenger vans,
I know like a postcard, so it's easy for people to get in the mail and everything like that, but to just make sure, we're not going to see, unfortunately, we could have as many meetings, but we're not going to see let's say, of the voters, we had probably about, close to 3,000 last year, or 2,500. We're not going to see 1,000 out at these meetings, we would hope. But the thing is, we need to give them some information to link to different areas. As well as, my next point is, we're having 3 at the admin building, none at Caroline.
You know, I'm
At
sure we
12
can,
noon.
we can change, yeah, we can, I'm sure we can adjust this
Yeah.
to go to a different location. That's good feedback for
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of backstory on this, and Jennifer spent weeks trying to get this line, and there were reasons why certain buildings didn't work. I don't want to like
Right.
speak for her, but Caroline was discussed, and Caroline was one of the goals, and I can't remember
Oh,
whatever
okay.
reason,
All right.
it didn't work
Okay,
out.
so-
But you know, we started with trying to have a couple that were in the city and a couple in outlying areas, and then and try to have different times for people during the day and in the evening, et cetera. And so this is just kind of what she arrived at. Specifics I'd have to defer to her, but that was the goal.
Right, okay.
Okay, precisely to your point. And we had a lot of discussion about what will go into FAQ, and that'll be coming. We'll be looking for all board members to add to that, suggest to that. But this is kind of like my drum I keep hitting, but an FAQ, what's the difference between a budget and a bond measure? You know, and why they're two separate things. 'Cause I think the natural question is, well, people are saying, well, I'm gonna vote on a budget. Why does a budget not include fixing the buildings? So that's for sure gonna be front and center. So I think we would do both, respond to your point about explaining the difference between the two and why there's 2 votes, at the same time, not confuse voters that one is the other, and it's gonna be up to, I think, the comp team to try to thread that needle, but.
Yeah, and making sure folks know where to get all the information that they want. But also understand that there's some differences between those.
And can we flip back on the address side? And nowhere that says when this vote is going to occur.
Not on that side, correct?
But is it on the other side? Does it have the date?
Yes.
Where's the
On
date?
the-
May 19th. So what's up there? Oh,
It says tax neutral project.
You can see it on Zoom,
Yes.
but it's not,
Again, I think a lot of this we defer to the comp team at the end of the day, but we have to like various versions of this, some with more and some with less information. And ultimately, the decision was let's just get people the dates. Like this is not trying to explain to them anything. This is just to provide the dates, and the QR code would be the more information. So dates and a QR code for information. But Karen, your point is right. There's 105,000 voters. And 3,000 to 4,000 of the 105,000 voters will show up at the polls. And of the 3,000 to 4,000 show up at the polls, 100 tops will attend this. So, we do what we can, but
right.
but we hope is that the people who do come and tell their neighbors, people from the PTA will come, and there'll be discussions in parking lot when people are dropping kids off, and but.
There will also be a newsletter that goes out that will be a separate newsletter from the budget newsletter, which will also go out on its.
But
on
that
its schedule, so-
newsletter always goes out, let's say 7 to 12 days before the
Yes.
vote.
The budget newsletter
Yeah,
does.
the budget
yes.
newsletter, unfortunately, and then that's when we've heard too many times from community members, why am I just getting this information now? Although we know it wasn't just now, right?
Yeah,
It's in advance.
we spoke this morning about targeting early April for a capital project newsletter to go out to hit voters' mailboxes ahead of that budget newsletter, so they have a little more time to become aware of what the
It sounds like it's a little moot for this conversation, but I think that this takes me back to the board meeting on Tuesday and the conversation about how decisions are being made in these kind of things, and the fact that sounds like it's already finalized and possibly printed and going out early next week. Karen is on the Finance and Facilities Committee, Todd is on the Finance and Facilities Committee, and it sounds like neither of you were
Oh,
included
no,
in
I
this
was aware
conversation.
that the
But did you
communication
see-
team, I was
Right,
aware
but
that
were you included, like, it sounds like
I
There
didn't
has
need to
been-
be included in every step, and I respect what was already decided, because the communication team, I know I've spoken to Garrett about Caroline, and I was just voicing it here. The thing is there, because I don't agree that it should be at every board meeting and all, because discussions need to happen
Yeah.
among staff and Tetra Tech and everyone else involved with this, and we have our monthly OACM meetings,
Yeah.
which come up, these discussion points come up. But I wanna go back to like us making sure that the 2026 annual budget vote, I know it's two separate, we're voting on, the budget vote is operations funding, and then we have the capital project. But I think we need to alert people that May 19th is one and the same date for all of this to happen.
Okay.
So I with us just saying tax neutral project and all, do they remember that that's gonna be the budget vote? There's gonna be multiple propositions, and as well as that's going to be school board election. So that when it comes to the point of like, yeah, we won't see all of these individuals out, but we have the information, but this postcard hopefully will linger in their homes for some time, and then when they do get the newsletter, a few months later, they'll say, aha, I remember this date, and also.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So we'll talk about that at communications to see what opportunities we have to let folks know, hey, this date, which if I'm understanding one of your points, this date is not only for the capital project vote, but it is also for these other things, the
Right.
budget vote and the election, the board elections as well. So just to raise people's awareness that it's all on the same day.
So again, I wanna make sure that this sounds like it's one of the few things that's being mailed out ahead of all of the votes that are happening on May 19th, and you're, Karen, bringing up some like really important points about some things that could have been considered or phrased differently or information. So I'm just trying to understand, like, process wise, how
Yeah.
that feedback could have been received possibly earlier than after it was the decisions.
So Emily, all I can say is that's why I emailed the entire board on January 15th and said we'd be meeting this morning to finalize these things.
And there's been discussion around this, and this is why we're bringing it to committee. It's not going out tomorrow. It's not gonna be mailed.
Well, I guess that's the
Next
question.
meeting,
Is there
yeah.
time to make adjustments or is it already finalized?
I would check with Casey and Katie to see exactly where the printing stands, because
Printing is-
district folks handle that.
I think they are sending it out. It's, yeah.
Sending it, but hasn't sent it yet.
We haven't,
Hasn't
we
sent
just,
it
yet.
we have not sent it, no.
So, yeah, communication staff, board representation, superintendent have reviewed this before it
Who
got out.
has, sorry, I'm sorry.
District staff, communication staff, board representation, superintendent have reviewed this before it goes out. So we do.
Board member, not board representation.
Well, for the
right?
Finance and Facilities Committee, Garrett is our chair.
Right, but that's not like representation of the board.
Well, the board doesn't really have to approve.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
not,
so
that's a
it's-
little bit
it's
of what I'm trying to
representation of the
understand, but either
committee.
way,
Yeah.
we
so
shouldn't
to-
say that it was like.
Because just like, for
Representation
instance,
from
the
the board.
news, the mailer that goes out in May, it's after we've accepted the budget that all of that information is on the mailer. We, the board, don't approve.
Yeah, no, I just wanna make sure the language is correct. If we don't, like, it doesn't sound like we would or do approve, but I wanna make sure that the language is reflecting on who
Well-
did approve it, which is, it sounds like leadership, like the district, which is great, which is fine, but not the board.
So let me just back up, Lynn. I mean, look, we have 9 members of the board and we delegate responsibility. So, the facilities and finance committee sort of takes the lead on this. Within facilities and finance, we break down, we have OACM meeting. And all members of that committee are invited to the OACM, as is the whole board. We discuss this at the OACM meeting, we have broad agreement on it. And then there's the kind of nuts and bolts of, does the postcard have the QR code in the top right or the top left? That's mostly deferred to the communications team, but I do kind of sit in on those conversations. I sat on them last January 15th. I sent the whole board an update and said that the following meeting would be February 12th, which is today. And that's where we are. So The postcard has been printed. I thought it was gonna be printed a little later, but last time we met, they didn't know exactly what was the backup time. I shouldn't say the lead time of the print. So there was a goal, to have it ready, but then when you go to the print shop, there's the things about how long it takes to get for it and so forth. The postcard has not been sent. It does not need to be sent. It can be reprinted. It's not a big expense.
Right.
But it is ready to go. If there's a big objection, we can pull it.
Yes.
But I have to be clear that there's kind of a chicken and egg thing here, which is the board has not approved the bond measure. I mean, if we want to give the public advance notice, we have to work backwards and have these documents in place and start the communication process in parallel with the board approving, so the board could decide, what is it, March, whatever, not to do the bond measure at all, in which case we would have, wasted the postcards and maybe had some wasted meetings, but we just can't do it all linearly. Some things have to be done in parallel tracks.
Yeah.
But, I just would say that there's no, we delegate responsibilities and try to update, and the Facilities and Finance Committee is aware of this. Was at OACM,
Karen just
Entire-
doesn't sound entirely aware
Well,
of it.
let Karen speak for
No,
herself.
that's what I'm asking.
So Karen is okay with this. Karen made her comments as long as we can say whatever, make any changes on the QR code. So now that I know that it's gone to print and we've had discussion, because Karen can definitely speak for herself, so let Karen always speak for
I'm
herself.
not speaking for
Thank
you,
you
I
very
would say
much.
what it
So-
sounds like.
So I'm quite okay with this. I've given my feedback. I know that I've given feedback to Garrett via email previously too. So, I'm seeing the postcard, but I've given my comments and I welcome, the beauty about online is that we can make updates periodically to the QR code and online information.
And I'd say that was the design. So like I said, the original, this is going back to the update I sent to the board on January 15th. The original postcard had a lot more information. And the decision was made to minimize the information on the postcard beyond the time and place of the meetings and put all the information on the QR code for the very reason we're discussing, so that adjustments can be made. But so the one thing we're locked into here, should we send this, is those time and dates and locations.
There are also other opportunities for individual PTA meetings and things that happen sort of as a normal course, updates, on a more granular level. And so some of the materials, like the newsletter that's being developed, is being designed to be able to be used in a lot of different formats, so that building leadership understands clearly what's happening. You could use that as a resource for, like I said, PTA or athletics meetings or specialty, sort of groups that the district can decide to show up to in whatever location you'd like, whenever, and you've got those resources available to you, so you're speaking consistently about the message, for the capital projects. That's overarching goal and strategy that we're trying to always keep in mind as we're developing the few pieces of information.
Can I ask a slight pivot? I just want to make sure I understand one aspect that I maybe asked questions about, I guess, about the tax neutral. Okay, so we borrow the money for the capital project from the bond market, but then we service the debt on the money that we borrow, and that's the 7% annual basically that we keep consistent, that comes out of the budget. So I mean, I understand, like, it does make sense to call it tax neutral. I don't disagree with that, but if somebody's asking questions about it, we end up getting the voters to approve the budget, which includes as part of the budget, the 7% payback. So in a certain sense, while it is separate, it's also connected because people are agreeing to pay that back.
Yes.
The other, okay, this is a little bit for me too, just so that when people ask questions, I'll be able to not make mistakes. The other part that I had one question about is the state aid that we get, it's like 58%, I think, on the dollar. When does that get applied? Like, so when we borrow money from the bond market, when are we reimbursed from it? Do we borrow 58% less because the state pays us? Or when we pay it back, 58% of the payback comes from the state? How does that part?
Dom can speak to this more in a more detailed way.
In a real estate, well,
becomes
when
revenue.
projects are completed, when or significantly, we submit a form that says project has been significantly completed. And once we submit that form to SED, then we receive the A back.
So when
And
like some,
for renovations, that occurs over a 15-year period,
Right.
and that's basically revenue for the district.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
okay, so when we're paying back the 7% with that debt service, that sort of has the 58% refund baked into the cake. Like, it's not like we're paying it and then getting a check back, it just never gets paid, we just pay less in a certain sense. Is that?
Let me
I
say
would
that
defer to
there's a
Tom on
meeting
that.
last year where Ben from Fiscal Advisors. I mean, it's a lot, but if you go back last year, he has one of these things where he presents this massive
Yes.
spreadsheet.
I think I was.
And it's like a wow kind of spreadsheet, but
Yeah.
to boil it down, what you're right.
Okay, I'm only asking because people might say like, oh, like how does, it's like sometimes people do ask more complicated questions like on the street, so to
Sure.
speak. They say, how does
Sure.
this work exactly? Why are they saying that it's separate? And I just want to be able to explain
Yeah.
the relationship and that it is connected, but it is also separate.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. One other thing I think to say, if someone is trying to understand it better, is that although the voters are authorizing up to an amount to borrow, the district does not go out and borrow that on day one.
Right.
You borrow it only when you need to. Like, okay, we're gonna do this chunk, we only need 5 million, so we're only gonna borrow that, so we're not paying interest on the whole, so you do it in phases. And your financial consultant helps you manage that.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Good question. All right, if we're good, can we do a brief construction update and the other items?
So you gotta try to.
Certainly, construction update, again, my name is Travis Randall, I work for Campus Construction Management Group, it's the Ithaca's construction manager representing the ongoing construction. So I just have some brief slides, just kind of general photos to familiarize people with the updates to the project that have happened in the last month. It's just the kind of changes that we've seen. So we're gonna start right out. These first photos are at the high school STEM additions. You can see this is new addition, brick facade that's ongoing. You can see part of it's still wrapped in plastic. That's to retain heat while the mortar's curing. A couple similar photos. You can see these exterior wall assemblies, we call them block and brick insulated wall assemblies, are nearing completion. The exception of, you can see up top, the infill that's kind of just rough, kind of wood and plastic framing, just to kind of enclose it and keep the weather out, is where windows will be. The windows will be starting to be installed very shortly. So a couple photos, and then kind of the other side of the addition. Again, the end still wrapped in plastic. The brick is actually installed in these locations. It's just kind of has protective encapsulation around it to kind of hold in heat. So a lot of good progress there. Now, this is kind of coming right interior to those additions. You can see there's some painting going on, the interior walls. You can kind of get the feel from these areas that they're kind of, this is, I believe, in the auto shop area. So it's a very kind of STEM oriented space. Have one, the ceilings, again, open ceilings. Apologize, this photo is slightly disorienting. Looking up at the ceiling. So just a solid white painted ceiling, all the mechanicals exposed. This next photo is inside one of the actual classrooms in the STEM. This will be like a computer type classroom. This is actually, this one particular one is room E17. See kind of concrete polished polished concrete floors for the flooring, which is kind of in progress here. See, they have some casework up on the walls. There's also going to be casework down the middle of the floor and lower attached to the walls. You can see the multitude of kind of openings in the walls for data and power outlets. So this is the STEM toilet room. I apologize for the dark. The lights were not on at the time, not complete. So we're still working here. This is inside the toilet room, bathroom in the STEM area. You can see we're very deliberate with epoxy floors. In this photo, they're still kind of curing. We went with epoxy floors because the grout in a lot of the other bathrooms becomes a maintenance challenge. So we went with our epoxy here. It's kind of a crimson Ithaca kind of red color. So, and that's what I have for update photos. Are there any questions about the active construction that's going on? So, making a lot of good progress now that we have the buildings, kind of the additions mainly enclosed to allow us to continue to work through the cold weather in the winter.
Coming along.
It is, yes.
The door safety.
Door safety.
That's the highlight
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, I know, sorry. Save the best for last. Here we go. Yeah. I'm gonna go really quick through this, okay?
Oh, no, please.
Yeah.
Like, drill down.
I'm gonna be very quick. So I know some questions were brought up at the safety hearing, so we started to do a deep dive in some of the questions that came up were some of our doors are propped open and are left open, and we have an alarm system throughout all of our buildings that notifies us when this happens. So right now throughout all our buildings, we have exterior and interior doors, and after 90 seconds of being propped open, we get an alarm. Triggers an alarm. The alarm goes to the principal, assistant principal, front office. Okay. And then each principal gets a daily summary. But in investigating this, we realized that what we've decided to do is attack this by looking at each building specifically. So for example, we pulled BJM up, and this, you see the map is of the first floor. And in the week that you see, we had 85 alarms. But if you do a deeper dive into the data, you'll see that we're getting multiple alarms on doors that maybe we shouldn't be monitoring. So for example, if you've been into BJM, you can see, is there a pointer on this? Okay. All right. So this is the front door of BJM. But once you get in through this front door, there's a greeter station right here. Okay, so we're getting a lot of alarms on the secondary door, which actually, we have 14 alarms in 1 week. And this isn't really a safety issue for us because we already have a person here. Additionally, behind the greeter, for some reason, we have a half door. And that's going off at 23 times during the week. So when we started to do a deeper dive into the buildings, we realized that some of the alarms we're getting aren't really safety concerns. We just have to do a deeper dive and work with the building principals and be really thoughtful and careful about which doors we're picking. So we're going to meet with Miss Little, and this is just I'm going to go fast through this. So we have some ideas that we're going to try and pilot at BJM. Instead of the 90-second threshold, we're going to do a 5-minute threshold for the doors. We think 90 seconds is probably too short, especially if people are holding doors. If you've been to any of our elementary schools like BJM, in the morning, there's an adult who's holding the door for people. 90 seconds is probably too short, especially for dismissal and for the beginning of school. We're also the way that principals get alarms, it's not really fantastic. It's an email, it can be buried. So we're gonna look at text messaging building administrators, so it'll be easy for them on the job to get these alarms. We're gonna also meet with them and make sure that we've alarmed the doors that they want, as well as there's some interesting issues. We want to focus on exterior doors and not interior doors. Like a good example would be Ithaca High School. We have a bank of doors to get into the courtyard, which secures the courtyard. But we have alarmed the cafeteria door that everybody has to come in, and that probably gives us a lot of false readings as well. And if we define that more as an interior door and prioritize more on the exterior doors, I think we can focus better on where our safety issues are, basically. So that's it. That's about as fast as I can get through doors. Any questions?
So when we had the safety plan public hearing
Yeah.
earlier this year, we had someone at public comment that was specifically talking about the high school.
Yeah.
So have we investigated all of the door openings at the high school?
We started to looking at a lot of those courtyard doors being propped. We also are looking at times. So and Parker helped out with this too. We need to look at the timing of the alarms and make sure we're not just capturing all the alarms on the weekends and after school times, but we are going to do a deeper dive after we try out some things at BGM. If High School will be next for us. I think we just didn't want to take on a number of campuses. We wanted to meet with Miss Little, learn from what we can do differently at BGM, and then take it to a bigger campus. And the high school's our biggest campus. Yeah.
Even the text message part, that's only at BJM to start to see how it works, or that's more?
I think it's as fast as technology. I think it's as fast as our technology can
I can answer.
make it happen. Yeah. I'm happy.
Sure.
We're gonna,
So. You're answering your own question.
I am answering your own question.
I can.
For updating with the phones for principals, we're gonna work one school at a time and meet with them and figure out who we should be setting up with those text alerts.
Okay,
And what are the right times that they're gonna be getting those text alerts.
but that's gonna happen across the board in tandem with doing like testing at BJM, or?
Yes.
I'm just asking because that means that before you figure out like looking at what was happening at BJM with a couple of those doors, that means that in the other schools where you haven't like evaluated it yet, they might suddenly be getting 23 text messages an hour instead of like trying that after you've kind
To
of limited.
change to the 5 minutes.
Yeah,
The 5 minutes is going to be huge.
Yes.
Because at South Hill, there has been some adjustments to the timing, and we've seen a lot fewer alarms. Correct?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
more paying attention to the arms as well.
But I'm happy to meet with technology to see how fast we can speed up text notification. as
well, I was suggesting, I'm not suggesting anything, I'm thinking about the opposite, because I'm thinking that once you lengthen the time and that therefore reduce the unneeded, that would also reduce the unneeded text messages that people would be getting. And so
Sure.
before, if you do the text messages before, and at a place like the high school where it might be like, I don't know, are they suddenly gonna be getting like just blown up with text messages like this?
We
because
think
you
it's
haven't
gonna be a lot
evaluated?
better with the 5 minutes. I don't think.
But you're just doing the 5 minutes at BJM first?
I think we wanna see how we can roll this out to other schools first. Before we start changing things. I mean, I also don't think what you're suggesting would be that hard also. I think we could scale this up pretty quickly.
A lot of it is just planning on meeting with technology with each building's administration.
And the way they get the alerts now is completely inefficient.
Yeah, text message.
system. It's, I mean, I guess an example might be high school administration. Parker, how many emails would high school administration get right now to notify them about 90 seconds per door?
So we do have the data for every building. We just wanted a good presentable format. For this span of weeks, it was 2,300 alerts.
Right, so those would all become text messages and until you dealt with the 5-minute thing.
I don't think we want to do the text mess. I mean, we could do it either way. We could do changing it to 5 minutes and seeing how many text messages they get, or we could just experiment by just turning it over to text messages right now. But I think, but honestly, just looking at the high school doors initially, there's a lot of doors that we don't need to be paying attention to. In a locked courtyard, we don't need to pay attention to 20 or 30, interior doors, if that makes sense.
So that's my other question, I guess, when you're talking about safety, there's like, these doors don't need to be locked at all because they're.
No, they're all
I'm saying like
locked.
in general, if you're thinking about doors in a building, there's some doors that never need to be locked, like some interior doors that are never locked. There's some that it sounds like you're talking about setting at 5, and then some that would remain at 90. So my question is, does that mean that there's like 3 levels of safety, or is the 5-minute thing really like, should there be a time on there at all? Does that make sense? Cause that sounds
Yeah.
like it's like it is.
I think we need some threshold. I'm thinking about, there's some of these doors, like when I was the principal of Bell Sherman. If you know the back of Bell Sherman, there's a kickball court and there's a back entryway. And a lot of the community comes from the back of the building, so they don't have to go all the way around the school because it's inconvenient and your child will be later to class. So we'd always have a person, like the example that I shared at BJM, when there's a person by the door, that is a very, very safe situation.
Okay,
So I think,
so it's a middle ground.
yeah, I think there's some middle ground, and I've talked to IPD about this when we do our safety drills. As long as there's an adult watching everybody come in, it's a very safe situation. That's why when we looked at the BGM greeter station here, I said, I just passed it right here. Yeah, like if you had, so right here, there's a greeter here. They've already been buzzed in on a secure door. This isn't needed. Now, this is a great example because almost all of our buildings have a secondary door. And I'm pretty sure that in almost all the buildings, the second door is being propped open. So, and in this case, it's so that families can get to class, but then there's a family meeting room right here, if you know BJM. They're holding this door open so meetings can happen here with families. So I think 5 minutes though is a good kind of middle ground, if you will. And then we can change it too if it's not, if we feel like if we feel it's not safe enough, we can lower the threshold. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And just to note, that door at BJM technically is not being propped open. There's an individual holding the door.
Right.
Because the person at the entrance can buzz people in. And it's usually a staff member that's around there holding the door.
Good point. Actually, you can buzz people in on both doors.
Right.
Yeah. So this is probably the most secure. All of our elementary schools have double doors. Yeah, and the middle schools. And the middle schools, of course, yes. Sorry.
Now, when I think of propped open, I think of like doors I've seen at the high school sometimes where someone's put in something, a chair.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something to hold, and an adult is not present,
Right.
and they say, "Oh, come on to this meeting, the door will be open." So
That's the safety issue.
yeah,
That's what we're trying to prevent against. Yes, of course. Chris, you looks like you want to jump in.
When we designed the entrances for security, with 2 doors. Dan mentioned that both doors are equipped with buzzers, so you have control over those. But we did 2, knowing that sometimes a building will operate their building with these indoor doors open all the time. Because, you know, you have large groups of students coming in and out at certain times of day. You can close them if you want. If you're having an event, yeah, you're gonna probably prop those open on the hold opens, right? So if you're then monitoring all those things and thinking that's a problem, that's kind of what I think what Dan is speaking to here. So
I'm gonna maybe suggest that, if we want to have sort of further details back and forth, this, maybe we take that offline.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
not in the.
Sure.
Just not, it's not here. We then turn to the presentation of patents.
Oh, sure.
Thanks all of you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, rest, Travis. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. You were good.
90 seconds, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Good evening. This should actually really be quite brief. Before I begin, though, I was hoping Emily Scheich would be here because I wanted to point out that today we were able to facilitate the payroll back pay for ITA, and I wanted to just mention both HR and the business office team for facilitating such a smooth process. It went very well today, and they deserve all the credit for that process. So I want to mention that. That went back to September. Pardon? That was back to the beginning of the year. Yeah.
July,
Yeah.
July 1st.
And they coordinated the whole process. It really was impressive. They did a great job. So yeah. So some great news. I just wanted to mention that the preliminary figures from state aid are out. And as you know, these can change a little bit, and they tend to change in our favor when we get the final figures. But I thought I'd share these with you. Great news is that our projections, we projected about a 3% increase in foundation aid. It came in at 3.81%. So it's a little bit better, about $1 million increase over what we anticipated. So that's great news. The expense-based aid, those are literally based on our expenses. So we anticipate some changes there. The largest increase was our BOCES aid that increased by 22%. And that's predicated on the expenses from the previous year. So again, something that we would anticipate overall. Transportation aid, slight increase there in building aid, and we just had that whole conversation about how that works. So again, that's based on the previous expenses and the project that we're currently in now. A slight decrease there, and again, we had a slight decrease yet last year, but again, that could change as we submit for aid. Our instructional materials aid and so on. Again, slight decrease. That's usually on a per pupil basis that we see those changes. So if there's a decrease in our overall student count, we might see fluctuation there. Again, a minor decrease overall, but our total state increase is 5%. So again, much bit larger than what we anticipated. Great news overall.
Now, this is going to go up where in other discussion on today's
Yeah,
board docs.
So we're it will not be in board docs for this meeting, but we are going to present this at the larger board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of giving you a heads up. So before we get there, this is generally where we are. And we have preliminary tax cap figures. And again, before I start this is just our calculation for what the tax cap is. It certainly isn't the levy. That's something the board would have to have discussions over. Of course, the public would vote down the road. But I want to give folks an understanding of where we are. The current tax levy for 25-26, as you know, was 3.7. The levy was 150 million. The cap that we went to last year was 3.76, and we did go to the cap last year. This year's figure, the calculation is looking at 119 million overall, and the cap was calculated at 4.26%. That doesn't mean we'll go there, but that is the calculated cap that we could go to. So that's where we are at this point.
Okay, so although these are preliminary slides, will the whole board get a copy before?
They will.
The meetings that we're gonna discuss, okay.
Absolutely.
Alright.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, everyone.
Don't be sorry. It was a long day for you. Any questions regarding either state aid or the tax cap? Well, that's no fun. I guess. Other than that, this is where we are at this point, and so what we're going through now is we just finished up the meetings with various stakeholders regarding their particular budgets and buildings and district leaders and so on. So we will have preliminary budget figures fairly soon, probably. I would anticipate by the next facilities and finance meeting, we'll be able to share some of that information with you. That's really all we had.
Go through the other stuff already?
That depends on what you need by.
Yes, consideration of accounts.
Didn't do consideration accounts. We had to wait for you.
Okay. And I'm flying blind here because I left my phone in the other room and I can't get into my computer, so.
So can I just ask a question? So is this 6.1 budget review? Or we're going into consideration of accounts?
Correct, yes.
This was like a preliminary.
Correct.
And now, so for the prior budget review, you said that you've gone to different groups within the district and all that.
Correct.
Sometimes we've had in the past, like groups come and do a share out.
Yes.
Are we going to have that?
We're having those discussions. So that's a great topic of discussion. I know it's something that we've done in the past, and I'd like to get your feedback. I think what we anticipated doing this year was having them talk about their programs with the board, sharing some of their desires for changes, what they've done in the past, and that we would share the financial aspects of it. But we're happy to do that any way that you see that.
Sorry, just what does that mean?
No, like different heads of groups, like fine arts or athletic. Different teams.
ICSD
department. Different department heads would come and share out
Yes.
what changes in the budget, how it would impact them, if it was a negative change on their end. And,
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we did that last year with finance.
They've asked that we share the financial aspects of it, but they want to share what they're doing and so on. So we're fine with that if you are.
Yeah.
If you're trying to find something on my laptop, good luck.
I'm trying to find the agenda so I can see the treasurer's report.
Oh,
I mean, I can globally, I can't, left my phone down in my office, so I can't go to my computer. But I can, when you guys are ready, I can review the consideration of accounts.
Maybe what we could scribble, just, maybe you could kind of flag or highlight anything that we should pay special attention to. I know a lot of this is pro forma and same every month, so we don't need to go through everything.
Sure.
It's pro
Okay.
forma,
sure.
but anything that is out of the ordinary, maybe?
Okay. So the treasurer's reports, just real quick, you'll see a lot more investing going on because it was November and December that we captured. Most of the investments, again, are just NILAF, some CDARs, some CDs. And I'm not exactly sure of the interest rates, but I think they were like 3.5% to 4%, maybe a little over 4%. We tried to lock in as high as we could. So that's really, taxes are done, so the money's invested going forward. The food service, we have the profit and loss statements, those are pretty much self-explanatory and where we are today. There's a very small amount on the 10,000 for the transfers. You'll probably see a little bit larger one next month because it'll encompass a little bit more time because this was as of the last meeting that we didn't do. The dispose of surplus property, some instruments that we repurpose, a lot of the parts from I think it was a violin. No, it was just one violin and it was instrument stands that were rusty. Those are going to be disposed of. And then a really old CB, but it was on the assets, so we have to dispose of it. Okay, so then we have some appropriations of some we received $1,850 in various donations for the community closet, which was very nice for both high school and Boynton. We received another the KDT, Discover the Trail. So those are the big chunks of money that we get from donated from the IPEI and the Kids Discover the Trail, I guess group or foundation or whatever. And it supports a lot of the BOCES enrichment that we do across the school. So these are the two big donations that you see annually at this time of year. And it's really quite nice that they donate this money to us. We have Park Foundation. We have a new grant that came in from the Park Foundation to support the Equitable Edible Farm. And that's a continuation, I believe, of the Enfield Farm to Table program. And I believe the amount is not written on this, but I believe it was 15,000 off the top of my head. We have some appropriations of our Title I grant that was finally approved by the state, Title IIA grant, and the Title IV grants. And these are typical grants that we get annually every year. We'll have a few more grants coming forward next finance meeting. They're in the process of being approved and almost there. And then I believe the last thing, and I'm not really going to be able to speak about this, is the quotes for the capital outlay for the Cayuga Heights Elementary School. So those were added on. Maybe you guys might know more about that than I do.
It's a gym floor.
It's the gym floor.
And then the second phase of that is some work around the doors. Right. Yeah. The gym floor is the first phase, yeah. And that includes the pads around the gym as well.
Any questions?
I want to take words out of your mouth. Usually at this point, you think the IPEI Park Foundation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Karen has better manners than me, so usually she has to remind me to think these external groups, but I'm gonna remind myself.
You did a good job.
Well, and also the various people that donated to the community,
Community cause.
and they are listed, so that was a very nice thing to see. But other than that, pretty much the basics.
Okay.
My last comment is we're
Looking at
watching.
my colleagues. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My last comment is we're watching the Fed rate for our investments. Paying close attention. That's what we'll be picking your brains soon to. Hopefully.
How many more cuts?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Right.
I never thought I would say this, but we shouldn't talk about politics, maybe.
Right.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
when did the Federal Reserve rate become politics?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
It is now.
It is now.
Yes.
All right.
Or the governor's budget,
Yes. For sure. Sure.
the impact.
Well, it may have an impact on our pre-K and our grants and I think
In a positive way?
So, yes, I believe so.
That we will be affected,
We hope.
impacted nicely.
Right,
Because it's
exactly.
never us.
Right. So.
So is there Adam? No? Karen? Trisha, Mark, anything?
Just the next meeting,
Next meeting will be next month,
17th.
17th.
Very good.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. So we will adjourn at 6:13.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make sure I don't plan another doctor's appointment
Oh,
in
you're-
Portland with a snowy